morning and welcome to Apex Online Racing. We're here today for round number 7 of the PS4 Oceania League, and we're here in the USA in Austin, Texas at the Circuit of the Americas. And unfortunately we were unable to provide a broadcast of the previous race in Japan. Byers was away and so was I. Unfortunately Byers is away today, but that does give me an opportunity to do a solo broadcast and commentary. But I'll give you guys a quick rundown of what happened in that Japanese Grand Prix just before we get underway here today. So actually, in that race, it was a wet race, and iContrast picked up the win. His first of the season, following on from his podium in Malaysia. He's had a very strong run after the mid-season break. So Contrast picking up the win with Dubsy in second place, and then it was actually Banana Josh picking up third place on the podium, with only 5 drivers finishing the race. Quite a difficult conditions there in Japan. Just always been a very difficult circuit in the wet, and well, that really played out in the results there. But congratulations on the podiums to those guys, and I'll give you a quick rundown of the standings just before the drivers get onto their first laps. So in the lead of the championship, pulling away at the moment is Dubsy with 113 points. He has a 34-point lead over VTI, who unfortunately missed the race in Japan. Then in third place after his win, propelling him 2 places up the standings, is Contrast with 70 points, followed by MLJH with 58, and then Maznat in 5th with 53. Probably expect to see him move up a little by the end of the season. Then in 6th place we've got Prying Stingray with 26 points, and then we've got a really tight battle for 7th. Banana Josh with 18, then Infinite March with 16, Dynamite with 14, Crema with 13 in 10th place, and then Nemo, he's got 12 points in 11th, and then Jordan with 10 points after P5 in Japan, and he's sitting in 12th. And then we've got 2 more drivers. Well, sorry, Excalibur is the remaining driver with 8 points. And yeah, I'd just like to remind the viewers that we do have some spaces left available in this league. We are missing a couple drivers off the grid today, but we do still have some full-time places. And here we have Maznat, who unfortunately missed the race in Japan, but he's going to be starting laps. So I'll take you on a lap through of the Circuit of Americas here in Texas, looking for just before 100 meters into this turn 1, and get the car slowed down 3rd gear through that first apex. It's easy to run deep into there, just get your braking zone wrong by a meter or 2. Now into the S section, and you really want to be taking these first couple of apexes almost flat out. Maznat very respectful of the track limits. This is his first lap. It is a banker lap, so he's just going to be nice and cautious through here, and I think we'll see in the second runs drivers really start to push up towards the white lines. A little bit of short shifting for Maznat there. Beautiful line through the end of the S section as we come down towards the hairpin, braking maybe just after that 50-meter board on the right hand side, get it slowed down, avoid that little curbing on the inside that will unsettle the car, and you definitely don't want that as we move on to the main straight. That exit is critical to getting yourself a good lap timing and just carrying the maximum speed along this straight, looking for just before 100 meters here on the right hand side. Once again in 3rd gear. This looks like a solid banker lap so far for Maznat. Difficult corner and to the right. It's very few brake markers in here in this 3rd sector. Extremely technical, very easy to lock up the brakes. That front left tire into this left-hander, but Maznat has negotiated that well. Now we come through 16, 17 and 18, flat out right-hander in qualifying. You might see a little bit of lifting there in the race. Now down into the blind 19, probably the most difficult corner on the circuit. It's there's not very many markers in terms of finding a braking point, and for the turn-in point it's really just a guessing game. But Maznat sets the first time, it's a 33.9, and that looked like a solid lap, but I think that he's got a little bit of pace left in the tank. Who else have we got on a lap? Dubsy, our championship leader, coming through the final sector. Once again down into this tricky left-hander. You've really got to be patient through here. Can't get on the throttle too early, otherwise the rear of the car will step out, and then just into this beautiful triple right, absolutely flat out, and then throw the car in. That's a beautiful line from Dubsy, absolutely fantastic through there into the final corner. Just it doesn't quite make it to the apex, but this is looking like a solid final sector, and Dubsy with a 32.8, absolutely blowing Maznat out of the water here. That's a phenomenal banker lap. To be honest, I was expecting to see the finishing pole time as maybe a sort of low 33 or a high 32, but Dubsy has already gone and done that right on his banker lap. Who else have we got? VTI has set a 35.0. I'm not sure that time is necessarily representative. We got Crema in the Toro Rosso. He's on what looks to be a lap now. I'll bring up some telemetry for you guys, and just running a little bit wide there, coming off of the main straight, and rear of the car really stepping out. That's a difficult traction zone. I've always found it a little easier to short shift a bit through there. Just got to be cautious on the throttle. And see, Crema's car is quite unstable at the moment. It looks like the rear is kicking out, and that might be a bit of a setup issue, and get onto that in a moment. Very cautious through turn 19. He's just looking to get some kind of time on the board as he turns it in for the final corner in the run to the line. Runs a little bit wide. Is that going to invalidate his lap? No, it doesn't. But Crema goes P4. So I think we've had VTI as well has abandoned possibly a second lap here, and it looks like he's actually completely out of fuel. So for VTI, he's going to be just trundling his way back around to the pits. We've got a few drivers that haven't set in times, but what a phenomenal lap time from Dubsy. Puts himself right up there, 32.8. That is, I mean, that might well be the pole time. We'll see if he's able to beat it later on in the session. So that's a very, very quick lap. All right, I'll just bring you guys the Constructors' Championship as well. We have the Ferrari of Dubsy and Maznat. They're leading the way, 166 points for them. And then in second place, we have Mercedes with 128, so not completely out of it yet. Then in third, we got a tight battle for third between McLaren and Force India. McLaren with 87 points, Force India with 80. Following them, we got a bit of a gap down to P5, another battle there. Red Bull with 36, and then Williams with 30. Toro Rosso with 13, and Renault with just 8 points. So yeah, I mean, really, the Ferrari is looking like the favorite for the team championship. That is Dubsy and Maznat, and you know, they've been very, very strong this season. Dubsy picking up a couple wins, Maznat also picking up a win in Italy. So that really does look like the team to beat. Also, if we got Contrast on an outlap, he hasn't set himself a time yet. He does have enough fuel, it looks like, to go for 2 runs here, and he's on. Well, this is interesting. He's on the super soft tire. Now, I wasn't expecting this at all. I was expecting the drivers to be qualifying on the ultra soft, the fastest compound that's available. It is the ultra soft, the super soft, and the soft that we have here today in America. But he's gone for the super soft tires. So this is interesting. I mean, Contrast, he's just come off of a win at Japan. He's looking to do something a little different, get himself further up that table. You know, maybe take challenge to the likes of VTI in front of him in that championship. But I think Contrast here, he's seen that the grid is not full today, and that he might lose fewer positions starting on qualifying on a harder compound tire than he normally would, and that it might well just be worth the gamble to be a little quicker across the race distance. Interesting to see what strategy that he goes for as he opens up the DRS and begins his first lap, and he does have I think the fuel for 2 flying laps, as we see a Red Bull coming out of the pits. Contrast quite late on the brakes, and maybe a little late on turn-in. Going into that first corner, it's always going to be tricky getting these the super softs up to temperature for this first lap now through the S section, and you can definitely see he's taking a little bit more of an aggressive run than Maznat was earlier, though he has missed the apex on the left there, which is going to cost him a little bit of time coming into this final section. Very difficult on the traction. In contrast, has negotiated it fairly well. He's coming down towards the hairpin now, and once again, yeah, just trying to avoid that inside curbing on the left there. That will really, really unsettle the car. It's it doesn't look like much, but it's crucial to avoid that if you want to get a good run along this straight. Once again, coming down into another tricky braking zone. It's very easy to lock the front left of this circuit. I've found that there are multiple corners at that corner, turn 1, also the hairpin, where it's very, very easy to start locking up the tire, and once you've done that once, it's it's easy to do again. Contrast taking a tighter line into the left here than we've seen other drivers. Other drivers taking a wider line and focusing more on the exit. Contrast looking for a little bit more mid-corner speed. as he's coming down into 19 now. Ooh, he's missed the apex there a bit, run a little wide. I don't think that'll necessarily invalidate his lap as he comes across, well, through the final corner and across the line. What is Contrast going to be able to do on the super soft tires? It is P3, and I think he might well be going for another lap here. I've got plenty of other drivers on out laps at the moment, pretty much everyone. Infinite March looks like he is just about to start a lap as well. Who else have we got? We've got Maznat there. So hop on board with Infinite March for a little bit. He's currently sat in P6, does not have a time on the board, and looks like a little bit of a lockup into turn 1. He's actually run deep there as Contrast. He's not able to improve on his time. He's abandoned his second lap, so he will be sitting there with a 35.0 on those super softs. As Infinite March is coming through this S section now, very, very tricky, and another little lockup there. He's run deep into the final left-hander in that first sector. As we come through the second now, you can see a little change in driving style compared to some of the others. Infinite March choosing to stay in 4th gear, whereas other drivers have been short shifting to 5th, just to help a little with the traction. Infinite March clearly feeling a bit more confident through there perhaps than some of the other drivers as he's coming along this back straight now, and yeah, it's looked like a little bit of a scruffy lap, I'll be honest, from Infinite March. He's got to really nail this final sector if he wants to get himself a reasonable position on the grid. Once again, just locking up and just going a little deep into these braking zones. I think he needs, if he's going to go for, he won't actually have time for a second lap, so this will just be the sole run for Infinite March, as that's a big lockup. He's got the line wrong coming into the slow left there. Will really compromise his run. And coming through the triple right, that is flat out. Now we'll see how he gets on at turn 19, which in my opinion is the most difficult corner on the track. He's quite cautious through there. I think he's realised now that this lap isn't quite what he wanted it to be. He's just going to put it across the line and at least get himself out of last place. He does actually pop up ahead of Kerma. Who else have we got on a lap? VTI. He's aggressive across that curve. You can see the car just twitching a little bit there, and that might cost him a little bit. You'll carry more speed through the apex hitting that curve, but you may well compromise your exit, so it's a bit of a trade-off. Once again, VTI aggressive on the inside curbing. It's well within track limits, but he's getting closer to the apexes than other drivers. He's not too worried about hitting the curbing here, and once again taking a little bit of a tighter run through this left. Looks to be pretty strong on the traction there. A little bit of wheel spin, but that's okay, as VTI he's got to put in a great lap here if he wants to get anywhere near to Dubsy. Almost turning in too early for turn 19 there. It's very easy to do that, but he's gotten the car slowed down. Ooh, rear end stepping out through the final corner. What's it going to be for VTI? It's just P3. He's quite a long way off of the likes of Maznat and Dubsy, so that might be a little bit disappointing for VTI here. We'd also have Dubsy in the pits, and that will be the end of the qualifying session. So Dubsy will take the provision, will take pole with that banker time of a 32.8. What a phenomenal lap from him. Maznat will sit second. He's quite a long way down on his teammate there. So we'll see if Dubsy is able to storm away in the opening part of the race. Looks like he has very strong pace at this circuit. Now we've got VTI in 3rd place. Again, I think he might be slightly disappointed with that. He's been very strong in qualifying so far this season, and P3, it's not a bad place to start. He's right up with it within that lead group. But I think he would have been wanting to start on the front row. I'll bring you the rest of the qualifying standings just when we get the actual results up. Alright, so a quick rundown of the qualifying order. It is Dubsy on pole position, followed by his teammate Maznat, and then we got VTI in 3rd. Contrast on the super soft tires. That will be interesting to see how that plays out. He's in P4, Crema in P5, Infinite March in 6th, and then we have a couple drivers not setting a lap time. I do believe Lance Stroll there was actually Banana Josh, who unfortunately is lagged out of the session. We've also got Jordan and MLJH, who did not set a time. I don't even believe that those guys left the pit, so they might be doing something a little different in terms of the tires. If they've not set any sort of time out there on track, they may well start on something a little bit different. It looks to be bright and sunny. That qualifying session was a little cloudy, but it's bright and sunny now here in Texas as the drivers get their setups sorted for the race, make any little adjustments. They are allowed to change a couple things, the brake bias. They can change the on-throttle differential, and they can change the front wing as well. So if anybody is going to be making any sorts of those adjustments, they'll also be setting up their tire strategies and making sure they've got enough fuel in the car. This circuit not quite as hungry on fuel as some of the others are on this game. It seems like at a lot of tracks drivers are running multiple laps extra fuel just to give them plenty to push with and run in rich fuel mixtures. But at this circuit it seems to be a little easier. You can definitely save through that S section, you can save through the final sector, so as long as you've got some rich for those main straights, you should be all right, because it's pretty much impossible to pass through the S section as we are on the grid with 5 lights building up for round number 7 of AOR Oceania here on PS4, and it is lights out and away after a bit of a delayed start. But look at this, VTI with a good run. Maznat coming up the inside of Dubsy. He's got a phenomenal start. VTI is going to look up the inside, but no, and it's actually Maznat that takes the lead of the race. He's up past his teammate, and through he goes into the lead. VTI coming under a little bit of pressure. What's that? Crema. He's made his way up to P4, and he's actually run a little bit wide, and that's going to give an opportunity for Contrast to get through, and Contrast does. So Contrast maintaining that P4 on the super soft tires, as we're seeing this lead group already starting to pull away a little bit, as MLJH is now, he's made up a couple positions off the start, and he's going to be looking at Crema perhaps down into this hairpin. Will he make a move? Beautiful shot there, and MLJH is going down the inside on the Toro Rosso side by side into the hairpin. Oh, a little bit of contact I think there. MLJH losing the rear end of the car, but we'll head back up the front, because Dubsy, is he going to be close enough to make a move on Maznat? I don't think so. No, Maznat very quick in a straight line here, and Dubsy not able to get close enough to him. We'll hop back down to MLJH, has another little look at Crema, but not able to get the position. Crema defending very well, as those two were side by side, I think, for most of that straight. But the Toro Rosso maintains his position. MLJH currently sitting 4th in the championship. He'll be looking to get a move on and get himself up the field, especially get past this Toro Rosso as quickly as he possibly can. As he's had some solid pace so far this season, and has definitely been out there contending with the podiums. As is going to have a look down into the final corner as he does get the move done. Good work on the brakes there for the Mercedes. I don't think that the Toro Rosso of Crema is going to be able to come back at him along this main straight. Look at the run that MLJH has had. Phenomenal exit, and he is up into P5. He'll start getting after the leaders now, but there's been a mistake for, I believe, Dubsy. Oh, and Dubsy has retired from the session. I'm not sure what's going on here, but our championship leader has had to pull over and retire from the race. It doesn't look like damage, it doesn't look like a disconnection, so something's going on there for Dubsy, and he's out of this Grand Prix now. And that gives, whoa, what an opportunity for the remaining drivers. Maznat, VTI, I mean VTI is sitting 2nd in the championship, and what a phenomenal opportunity for him as Dubsy has left the session. So yeah, I mean this is really pulling VTI back into the title battle here, as he's currently 34 points behind Dubsy. So now he's got a fantastic opportunity to pull that in and make up that ground onto Dubsy, as Dubsy is gone from this race. So well, for Dubsy's sake now, he's got to hope that Maznat is able to maintain this leading position. He has got a 1.5 second gap, and we will hop on board and see what tires the drivers are using. So Maznat and VTI obviously qualifying on those ultra soft tires, Contrast qualifying on the super softs, and then we've got MLJH, who's actually got a brand new set of super soft tires and is starting to catch Contrast as well. So MLJH, he's on brand new tires. He's taking a bit of a risk starting at the back there, but who knows, maybe this is a sort of a calculated ploy from MLJH, and he's got the best tires out of really anybody. And these ultra softs, they'll go a fair way into the race. They will make it around about 10 or 11 laps, but they're not exactly fast towards the end of the stint. The super soft should be the better race tire from about lap 5 or lap 5 or lap 6 onwards, somewhere around about there. So you see Crema getting a little bit optimistic with the track limits. Infinite March actually following him directly across there. It's very easy to pick up corner cutting penalties through this first section in particular. His track limits are pretty strict. You see Crema getting it a little wrong there again, as MLGH is Yeah, he's within this DRS range of his teammate now, just 7/10, and he's slowly crawling this gap in 10th by 10th, and I think we may see a move here in a lap timer. So VTI as well, he's starting to close in that leading gap. It was 1.5 seconds, it's now down to 1.1, and yeah, this front group just starting to bunch up once again. In terms of the other drivers, Infinite March starting to catch Crema a little bit. That looks like Jordan's had, I think, a spin somewhere. He's fallen off the back a little bit, but he does seem to have all of his front wings, so that's good for him right now. He'll be able to keep going, hopefully make up a bit of that ground. But yeah, VTI now within the DRS of the Ferrari, and we've seen time and time again this season VTI has been strong in terms of race pace and very kind to his tires. So if there's someone that can make these ultra soft tires really work for him throughout, well, towards the end of this stint, it will probably be VTI, as MLGH setting the fastest lap as Contrast runs wide through the first corner. MLGH is getting very interested in this third place now. He looks to have some great pace here today. He's the quickest man out there on track, and in terms of the tires, he's only going to get faster and faster compared to the front too. So I think we'll see both of the Mercedes come back at the leading drivers as this stint goes on. But MLJH, he looks as if he's going to be having a look at Contrast, perhaps down at the end of the straight. It's going to focus on getting a perfect exit out of here. See him using second gear, really revving the car out, and a bit of wheel spin. He's not going to be close enough on this lap. But yeah, I mean, MLGH, you know, he's not, to be fair to him, he's not quite been there in terms of the top three drivers necessarily this season. I mean, he has had a couple of podiums, but that has been somewhat down to misfortune perhaps on behalf of the other drivers. But we've seen that, you know, he's been close in terms of pace compared to the leading group of Maznat and VTI and Dubsy, and he looks to be taking another step here today in Texas. He's the fastest man on track. He's got the best tires. He looks to have a very comfortable setup on board as well. He looks that car just is incredibly stable, even in the dirty air of Contrast. Look how close he's getting now. You'll have a look down into turn one. Surely the DRS is open. We do have the some slipstream as well from Contrast. You're gonna have a look down the inside. A little later on the brakes, as Contrast is really just not, well, he's not even fought that. He's basically let it go for MLGH, and there goes the position to MLGH, the Mercedes drivers. Almost looks as if Contrast wasn't really fighting it. It is his teammate. I think he knows that MLGH is on a little bit better tires than him, so perhaps some strategy coming in here from the Mercedes. And now MLGH has got to put his foot down and get after those lead drivers. Contrast has really just got to hope that he can tag onto the back of MLGH and have MLGH drag him up to the leading pair. It looks as if Crema has had some kind of mistake through the S section. Infinite March getting past him there, and Crema has, well, he's lost that position in a significant amount of time, 5.5 seconds. I think he was about a second ahead of Infinite March. So yeah, he's probably had a spin somewhere through the S section. It's pretty easy to do, especially if you're running higher ballast. The car is very twitchy through there, as yeah, you see Contrast here is just trying to hold on to the back of MLGH, as MLGH now, as we get through towards the end of lap 5. These super soft tires should be the tire to be on. Also up at the front, we've got VTI. He's sitting just under a second, now just over a second. He does have the DRS that will help him stay in touch with Maznat. He was pulling this gap in earlier in the race, but it seems now as the tires have begun to wear that perhaps VTI is struggling a little more than Maznat on the tires. It's surprising. He's been very, very kind to them throughout this season so far, but you know, perhaps he's just struggling a little bit. Look how much he's gaining through this S section. VTI perhaps running a little higher wing than Maznat this race. He's caught up a huge amount through that S section. Beautiful camera angle there, as Infinite March is, I believe, the first driver to pick up a time penalty. I think we'll see a few of those at the race today. It's so easy through that S section to start picking up some kind of some kind of time penalty. But yeah, this lead group of MLGH is just 2 seconds behind, and as the stint goes on, I think that gap is going to continue to close. It was 2.7 when he got past Contrast, now just down to 2. He needs to really start reeling that in and put some pressure on this leading pair, because they will pit earlier and get an undercut on him, and he doesn't want that undercut to be too much. And for MLGH, he needs to start pressuring these lead drivers before the stint ends. In terms of the pit window, we would expect to see a one-stop race here. Yeah, we would expect to see a one-stop race, but in terms of what compound of tires the drivers will go to in their second stint, that's a little up for debate. The super soft tires would make it to the end from roughly lap 10 if you're very kind to your tires, lap 9. The soft compound tires, you really could box lap 7. I mean, you know, if you want to go aggressive on the strategy in terms of getting an undercut, then yeah, I mean, the soft compound tires will make it to the end from roughly about lap 7 onwards pretty comfortably. They'll be up there at about 60 or so % by the end of the race, but they will make it. That'll be available to the drivers. Perhaps you know, one of Maznat or VTI might go for something like that if they're looking to undercut. For MLGH, in contrast, I'm not quite sure what they'll do. They may go for a set of soft tires around about lap 11 or 12 and run a you know, very comfortable tire strategy. Or they might run longer into the race. I think this may be possible for MLGH, who started on brand new tires. He may well run to about lap 15, 16, and then look for a set of the ultra soft tires and be very, very quick towards the end of the race, as Jordan has picked up another time penalty. So him and Infinite March currently with some time penalties, but there's some fairly big gaps further back in the field. So for these guys, the time penalties aren't too much of a concern. They've just got to focus on putting in some consistent laps and try and consolidate those positions, because it does look as if the leading pack of Maznat, VTI, MLJH in contrast are just a little bit out of touch at the moment. Infinite March sitting at 11.5 seconds behind here, so is he going to be the first one to go for the pits? No, he carries on with these ultra soft tires, and yeah, up front once again things just neutralizing a little bit. Maznat just about keeping VTI out of this DRS range, as actually Crema is the first one to pit. We'll hop to that in a moment, but yeah, VTI he's faster through this first sector, noticeably so. Look at that, he's gained 3 or 4 tenths through there, but when it comes down to the straights, I think Maznat is running a lower wing, and yeah, I mean, Maznat just able to stretch his legs really, and you know, get out of any sort of overtaking risk. Now Crema has been into the pits, he's come back out, and he's actually gone for another set of the ultra soft tires. So Crema, I think, going for a two-stop strategy here today, enjoying these softer compounds, doesn't want to go for a set of softs here, so he's gone for the ultra soft tires. That's interesting. I wasn't expecting a two-stop, but you know, if you can be, if you can get the most out of the tires and really put some quick laps in now, who knows? He might try and catch up to Infinite March a little, depending on how long Infinite March goes on his tires. He was a fair way ahead as Contrast picks up a penalty, and yeah, that will really hurt Contrast, because this lead group is still very close together, and Maznat still leading the way, who will be the first to blink into the pits. Maznat carries on, they're all carrying on, so I think Maznat and VTI now perhaps looking towards a set of super soft tires in their second stint. They will probably go another lap or two. MLJH, the gap down to 1.3 now, got a bit more work still to do. VTI is closer to Maznat than I think he's been so far, and now coming into this first sector, we can see that I think we'll see him catch up a little bit compared to Maznat. Here he's being quite respectful of the track limits, very much using the gearing for some engine braking here to just slow the car down and to keep things stable. Maznat actually running a little wide. VTI getting a nice exit there, not doing too much short shifting, but he's not going to be quite close enough down into the back straight, I don't think, especially looking at the straight line speed that Maznat has had so far this race. And Yeah, it looks like VTI, he's just not quite got that straight line speed to close into Maznat, and Maznat really, you know, he's almost pulling away on this straight. So, yeah, big lock up there from the Ferrari. That's not going to help his tire wear. Those Ultrasofts are going to be struggling now. Kreml with a 3-second time penalty on those new tires. Maybe not quite used to the amount of grip that he's been given, but MLGH has now got this gap down to 1 second, and now is the time for MLGH. He's really got to pounce now. It's at that point where these Ultrasoft tires are going to be screaming out for a pit stop, and he's within the DRS range. You can see him visibly gaining through the high-speed corners, right on the white lines there. That's good to see from MLGH. Now down into the final corner, and those Ultrasoft tires are really starting to wear. VTI and Maznat, they're probably a little bit caught up in their own battle, but they got to start looking out for this this Mercedes. He's only half a second behind VTI. He's considerably quicker at the moment. Contrast, he's 3 seconds back. He's just starting to fall off the back of this lead group a little bit, just struggling to keep up with the pace of MLGH. But yeah, I mean, look at this from MLGH. He's all over the back of VTI in this S section. We have seen that VTI is incredibly quick through here, but I think that he may be coming under fire along this back straight. Noticeable amounts more grip on the super soft tires, and I think now will be the likely pit lap for Maznat and VTI. They could possibly go to lap 11, but I think it will probably be now. See if MLGH is going to make some kind of move. VTI will have the DRS and the slipstream off of Maznat, so I think it's going to be hard for MLGH to get a move done here. VTI will have that tow, and you know, trying to pass a car that's already following one in front can oftentimes be very, very difficult. A little later on the brakes than VTI, but MLGH is he's just playing somewhat patient here. He knows that these guys are struggling on their tires, and he's got to be careful he doesn't make some kind of mistake. No rash decision now. He's put pressure on them, but can't afford to throw away this position, because he's in a fantastic place in this race. Could well be in with a good shot of a win here today, and that would be his first one of the season. VTI really struggling through turn 19, and he pulls into the pits. Maznat has actually carried on. MLGH is promoted up to second place. Contrast carries on as well. We'll see what Infinite March will do. Has he actually done a pit stop? Let's take a look. No, he has not. It's just Crema. So Infinite March still yet to make his first pit stop. VTI, he goes for the super soft tires. That's what we were expecting, and he will be very, very quick. He's gone for an undercut on Maznat. He was only roughly about 8/10 behind starting at the pit stop. So he now has to put in a phenomenal outlap, really push this McLaren to its absolute limits if he wants to overtake Maznat here in the pits. He's got a good opportunity to do it. The undercut at the Circuit of Americas is very, very powerful. So VTI, he should be the quickest man on track now as well. These fresh tires. MLJH, he's 1.1 seconds behind Maznat, and I think we would expect to see Maznat box this lap. He'll probably come in and respond to VTI. We can see already VTI gaining considerably onto Contrast. He's taken 6/10 out of him in the first half of the lap. VTI is absolutely flying. MLGH just losing a little bit of ground to Maznat through this final sector, but we'll see if Maznat is going to make the move into the pits. I fully expect him to, and he does make his first and probably only pit stop. Really pushing into the pit lane. That's good to see. But where is VTI in terms of his track position? He's coming into the penultimate corner now, and he's actually missed the apex a little bit there. That might cost him some time on this undercut, finding the apex of the final corner. Maznat's coming to the end of the pit lane just about now, and he comes out of the pits. VTI is going to be close, but Maznat looks as if he's actually maintained this position, and incredibly so. I was convinced that VTI was going to get the undercut done, but he's not quite able to. Maznat has maintained the the sort of net lead of the race. He is P3 on track at the moment, but Contrast and MLGH yet to pit. We did also have Infinite March into the pits at this point. Oh, VTI with a time penalty. We saw him just run over the white lines a little there. Again, he's so quick through this first sector, and Infinite March was into the pits. He's come out on a set of the super soft tires, following what the leaders are doing in terms of strategy, but we'll stay on board with VTI now. He's only 4/10 behind Maznat, revving that engine, that Honda engine, the back of the McLaren out, really sort of spinning up those rear tires coming on. Look at the straight line speed that Maznat has. He's so fast along this back straight. VTI is going to have to get a move done in the corners, and the trouble for him is he's not really too much quicker than Maznat through this final sector either. It's really the first sector, the S section, that he's much faster than the Ferrari, but the trouble with that is it's not really an overtaking position. He can go for a move through the S section, but you got to put a lot of trust in the other driver to make it through there. So Maznat just stretching his legs a little bit through this final sector. However, the main thing for these guys to remember is, okay, they're battling for the lead. They're P1 and 2 at the moment, well, net P1 and 2, but they can't forget about the likes of Contrast. They can't forget about MLGH, who is carrying on again. And I think that these guys on the super soft tires may well be looking to run longer into the race, go for ultra softs at the end, and really charge late on. But yeah, I mean, Mazda and VTI, they can't get caught up battling too much with each other, because if they do that, then MLJH is going to be close to them once he pits. He'll come out on the ultra softs and he'll storm through. So these guys have got to be sensible about their battling. I think they just need to settle in for now, and then maybe as it gets towards the end of the race, they can really start to go for it. But I mean, who knows? Dubsy is away. VTI has an opportunity here to make up a huge amount of ground in this championship, and he really needs a win here today. He's 34 points behind Dubsy at the moment, so if he gets the win here today, he'll be very close, well within striking range going into the final 3 races. And yeah, that would be a good finale to the season. Maznat as well, he's sitting in P5, and throughout the season he's really shown he's got strong pace for consistent podiums. So I think that he will be looking to move up the table. But the guys he's battling with, Contrast and MLGH, who are ahead of him in the championship, are well in contention for these podium positions here today. And we can see that actually this gap to Contrast in front of them is coming down pretty quickly. Just 7.3 seconds now. The fresher super soft tires making a huge difference. You can see Contrast just going up the hill there in the distance. Maznat with the fastest lap of the race, a 36.9. That's a good time. What I will do now is I'm just going to check and see what sort of lap times that MLJH is running. See, he's running now into the 39s. Contrast up at a 1 minute 40. So those tires really starting to struggle. And MLJH, oh no, MLJH, he's had a spin coming through the S section. He's lost the car, and that has cost him a huge amount of time. It's cost him an opportunity to win this race, and he's really struggling on those tires. Look at the oversteer there. MLJH, those tires are going to be well overheated. Go easy, son. Take it carefully. Don't spin it again. But MLJH has, well, he was in really a phenomenal position to just strap some ultra soft tires on and really have a go at Maznat and VTI towards the end of this race, and that has been thrown away. A mistake on very worn tires. It's easy to do. I have definitely seen drivers struggling through there, particularly as the tires begin to struggle, as Crema has retired from the session, and that will report. That will help Jordan make his way up into 6th place on the. It does look like super soft on my screen, but that is actually the soft compound tires. He's gone a little bit more, I guess, defensive in his tire strategy. Just gone a little bit more careful there. But and now for Maznat and VTI, this is really turning into a 2-horse race, because Contrast is losing time hand over fist compared to these guys, as MLJH has picked up a 3-second time penalty. That's just a real kick there in the shins, isn't it? Have a spin and then pick up a penalty as well. But for Maznat and VTI, they're now in the situation where it's really just the pair of them battling for this race win. I think Contrast is going to come out of the pits quite a long way behind this pair. In fact, he'll be oh, you'll be in danger of this pair catching him before he even pits. Contrast needs to get into the pits for some ultra soft tires. I think about now, because he's losing so much time compared to this pair here. VTI again, he's sitting within this DRS range of Maznat, but he's not really able to get too much closer. He's quicker through the corners, but Maznat is so fast along the straight. I think maybe for VTI, he's got to hope that Maznat gets held up by Contrast here, because if Contrast goes for another lap, Maznat will catch him before he pits. That gap's come down 1 second in just about a sector, and yeah, his lead pair running about 2 or 3 seconds a lap faster than Mercedes at the moment. So Maznat, he's going to negotiate this Mercedes now, assuming the Contrast doesn't come into the pits. And the other thing that MLJH is going to worry about is he will probably come out of the pits perhaps around, like, near or behind Infinite Mart, so he may well have a battle there. He's got to keep an eye on. He'll be looking to get into the pits fairly soon as well. Does Contrast pit? Yes, he does. He goes late. I don't know, it's almost as if he was trying to dummy Maznat there, but yeah, Contrast does pull into the pits, and I assume that this will be a set of the ultra soft tires. It is a set of the ultra soft tires. He's got a lot of ground to make up now. Does MLJH pit? No, surprisingly enough, despite that spin. I would expect it is him to see him in the pits a little earlier, considering he will have significantly damaged those tires, but I'd expect to see him into the pits this lap for a set of the ultra soft tires. He needs to be careful of Infinite March, because Infinite March will probably be, well, definitely is catching him at a rate of knots. Back up to this lead pair, VTI and Maznat, and again, VTI is just sitting here. He's maybe just struggling to get close enough to make a move. And in this situation, as a driver, you know, you're sitting just within the DRS. The DRS will help you stay within that striking range, and at this point you really just want to be looking after your tires, and you know, of course, just staying there, keeping the pressure on, but hoping that Maznat makes a mistake. But for VTI, he's got to look after his tires and hope that he can make something work towards the end of the race. If he's unable to get the move done on track now, it just doesn't look like he has the straight line speed. Contrast now pulling in this gap down to MLJH, and we would expect to see MLJH in the pits. Contrast, he's got about 17 seconds to make up to the leaders. He'll be hoping that Maznat and VTI start to battle a lot, because if they do, he's not completely out of this race yet. He is on fresher, faster tires. He should be considerably quicker. Oh, he's run a little wide there. That's a careless penalty. I didn't really gain anything from that, but yeah, he's run a little wide coming through the entry of turn 19, and unfortunately for him, that's a second penalty, I believe, for Contrast. He will be hoping that these lead drivers get a couple penalties now, but he does have clean air in front of him up towards the lead drivers. Now, where's MLJH going to come out in terms of Infinite March? Infinite March coming along the main straight now. MLJH, he is just leaving the pit lane, and oh, it's going to be close. Infinite March, will he get a better exit out of the first corner? No, he's not able to be close enough. MLJH just getting out ahead, and he now has a huge box of clean air in front of him too. So himself in Contrast, I think for MLJH at this point, he's really just got to focus on consolidating this P4 after that spin. What an absolutely heart-wrenching moment for him. I mean, that was, you know, a great opportunity for him to pick up a potential first win. If he was able to run down Maznat and VTI towards the end, but unfortunately it's all gone wrong for MLJH here today, just on worn tires, and that the end of that first sector is so easy to lose the car. Look at this, he's already pulled 3 seconds on Infinite March. Those ultra softs working well. Contrast gaining on the lead pair too, so yeah, VTI he's just struggling to hold on to the back of Maznat. And Maznat, you know, he did qualify ahead by 4/10, so perhaps Maznat just with slightly more pace, he's just controlling this race at the moment. But yeah, VTI, he's got to hope to to not lose touch as Contrast sets the fastest lap of the race, so 36.3. That's considerably quicker than what these lead guys are running. I think they're in about the 37s at the moment, so Contrast is really putting in the times. He looks safe for a podium now. He's got about a pit stop ahead of him, behind him in terms of MLJH, so yeah, he's got a good amount of gap. He's got to just try and drive this car absolutely flat out and hope that this lead pair starts battling. He's got to hope that they either start battling a lot or that they pick up a lot of penalties, but for Contrast, he's sitting about 15 seconds behind at the moment. Needs to start bringing that in as quickly as he possibly can. For VTI, he's just sitting here 1.2 seconds behind, and he's trying to get himself back within that DRS range, and once he's there, he can maybe relax a little bit, as Jordan has picked up a 3-second time penalty. I think that was through turn 19. Car a little bit twitchy through that final corner, but he's a lap down here on the soft compound tires. But for Jordan, once again, he's just got to make it to the end, keep it clean, don't spin it off, and if he does that, then he may well have a good opportunity, as we've now lost Infinite March from this race as well. We've had a couple of disconnections here tonight. That's I believe the third driver that we've lost, so yeah, hopefully we can get Infinite March back in, as VTI has boxed. That's a strange decision from VTI. I was not expecting to see him in the pits, and he's gone for a set of the ultra soft tires. He's gone to a 2-stop. This is a very, very strange decision from VTI. He will, yeah, he definitely will lose a position to Contrast. So, yeah, I mean, for VTI, this is a bold move. I think he's realized that he's not going to be able to get past Maznat in the situation he was in. So he's taken a huge gamble here. He's gone for a set of the ultra soft tires as MLG8 sets the fastest lap of the race at 36.0. But yeah, I mean, VTI is he's gone for a huge gamble. He's effectively given up his P2 at the moment. He's going to have to run down Contrast. He's 20 seconds behind Maznat after that pit stop. So yeah, I mean, perhaps he's hoping that Maznat's tires really fall off towards the end of the race. But you know, Contrast is not making huge sort of headway on Maznat. He's not really. He's gained about a second on him over the last couple laps, but that's not. You know, it's not anything like the amount of work that he needs to get done if he wants to catch the leader here. And now he's got to worry about VTI, who's on, you know, a few lap fresher tires behind him. And I think it's fair to say that at the early point in the race, it did seem as if VTI had a little bit better pace than Contrast. Contrast just struggled to hold on to that leading group. So yeah, VTI should be coming up to the back of Contrast here in a little bit of time. But I mean, for Maznat out front, what a perfect situation to be in. You've got a huge buffer behind you, and he's just got to nurse these tires to the end of the race. And so long as he can do that without a spin, he should be picking up the win here in Texas today. So yeah, Maznat's just got to keep it simple, really. Just nice and cautious through this S section. You don't have to push now. Just keep the car on the tarmac, and you'll bring it home. But for VTI, he's now pulling this gap into Contrast. He's taking a second out of him this lap. A lot of pace here today on these ultra soft tires. Again, you can see several tenths cut out of Contrast, and we'll just hop on board with VTI just going through the S section. Beautiful to watch the cars go. That's a great line through there from VTI. It does run a little wide, that'll cost him some time, but that first section was just about perfect. I actually see him dropping down to third just to try and get the nose in. He does look as if he's struggling with a little bit of understeer towards the latter half of that S section. So yeah, perhaps this lap not going quite as smooth as the others. Not made up too much ground to the S's on Contrast, whereas on previous laps he was making up a huge amount of ground. Probably not typical for VTI, but yeah, I mean, you know, he's 3.5 seconds behind Contrast here. Just got to keep it simple. Put in some consistent lap times, and he should hopefully be able to get that P2 back. But Contrast, he's just got to hold on, put in the put in consistent lap times. I think if he's got some fuel now is maybe the time to save it. And you know, once VTI starts to get close, maybe just ramp up those fuel mixtures and really push to defend that position in the final laps. Both these guys should be fine in terms of tire wear. At Contrast, he box lap 15, so you'll probably be up there around about 60 or 70%. He will make it to the end, I'm sure of that, but you know, VTI will have considerably better tires at the end of the race, and Contrast has got to be thinking of that and how he's going to approach defending this position here. He'll be well aware that VTI is behind him and catching quickly. Another couple of tenths taken out by VTI there, just 2.5 seconds. This may happen a little faster than I thought, as Contrast picks up another 3-second penalty through this S section, and he's really struggling in terms of penalties now. I know that him and VTI both have penalties. I won't check and see who has the most out of them, but yeah, both these guys struggling in terms of penalties. And I mean, if these guys keep picking up these 3-second time penalties, who knows, MLJH may actually have a chance of getting on the podium. He's 13 seconds back, but it's not completely unheard of for a driver to pick up, you know, 13 or more seconds worth of penalties here in the USA. So yeah, that's something that they've just got to keep in mind, that MLJH isn't completely out of this yet. I think Contrast has got quite a few seconds worth of penalties, as Jordan doing a good job getting out of the way of the lead drivers there, just giving them plenty of room. Yeah, I think he's quite happy to do that. He's not really in a battle really with anybody else at the moment, so he's just got to bring his car home. Infinite March has made his way back into the session. That was some great timing there, and he'll be able to get back in his Red Bull and start going again. That's good to see. Pick up some crucial points for Infinite March and for Red Bull today. VTI now just 1.3 seconds. This is going to happen fairly soon. Yeah, VTI is just 8 tenths behind now coming through this S section. This is where he's been strongest on track compared to every other driver. Look at this. He's absolutely reeling in Contrast, but once again running a little wide just coming through the latter half of this section. Holding it in 4th gear. You can just hear the revs there, just cautious on the throttle. It's so easy to lose the rear of the car in that traction zone. It's such a difficult part of this circuit. But now he's onto the back of Contrast, and Contrast has got to start thinking about his defense. What is he going to do to hold on to this position? He's got 6 laps to survive against the McLaren of VTI, who looks to be much quicker at the moment. It's going to be difficult for Contrast. Look at how much VTI has closed up on that braking zone. Oh my, that's incredible. It must have gained about 50 to 100 meters on Contrast there, and yeah, just oh, he's gonna have a surely not a good idea there, VTI. I had a look going down into the left-hander, but that's not going to work out for him. Bit optimistic. I think he might just be playing a little bit of a mind game with Contrast, letting him know that he's there and that he's well, he's really pushing to get past. I mean, this pair, Contrast is still pulling that gap down to Maznad in front. It's 12 seconds, but I don't think either of these drivers have really got enough time to make up that ground. For MLJH behind him, he's just got to hope that these two start battling really hard. But VTI is a little better onto the apex of turn 1. Contrast actually getting a very good exit out of there, though, with a slightly wider exit. And once again coming through this this really incredible S section. Beautiful to watch the cars go through here, as Contrast now is really coming under pressure from the McLaren driver, and VTI desperately needs these points. These guys are directly battling in the championship. VTI with 79 and Contrast with 70. So you know, this is more than just a battle for P2 on track. This is a battle in terms of the championship standings as well. And with Dubsy retiring from this race, these guys have got plenty to play for. They're not out of this title fight yet. As once again we're seeing VTI just struggling in terms of straight line speeds towards well, compared to Contrast, and we saw that with Maznad earlier as well. VTI looks as if he's running higher wings than these guys, and that might be the reasoning why he's so fast through that first sector, but he's struggling. He's going to have a look down the inside here. VTI going for the move on Contrast. They are side by side, and Contrast just holding that around the outside. He will have the inside line for this triple right-hander. Is VTI going to go up the inside? Surely not. He has no. Oh, Contrast picks up another time penalty in this battle. VTI looking down the inside, going into the final corner, and Contrast just holding it around the outside there. They're going to be side by side coming along this pit straight. VTI has the DRS, he has the tow, and he's going to have a look up towards turn 1. Late on the brakes as you dare. Will he try and hold it around the outside? He's going to have to, as Contrast parks it on the apex of the corner, and that's great defensive work from Contrast. VTI running a little wide, not able to get the traction. Look at this, he's practically pushing Contrast through the first sector, and Contrast able to maintain that position. There's no real place to pass here in the S section. VTI is going to have another look at him, probably along the back straight, focus on getting a solid exit out of here as VTI now picks up a time penalty. We saw him just run across the white lines there, and now LGH picking up time penalties coming all round as the drivers start to push. VTI going up the inside. Contrast, is he going to try this switch back onto VTI? And he does try. VTI just getting caught up on that curb a little bit as they're side by side now coming along the back straight here. VTI has the DRS. Contrast going very defensive. VTI is going to try it up the inside as Contrast once again, I think, looking for more of a switch back, but no, he's cut off by VTI. A little bit of contact there, and Contrast has lost this position. VTI with a good move. I think Contrast probably should have defended harder to the inside there and forced VTI to go around the outside, but VTI is through up into second place. Contrast demoted to third, and now Contrast is going to be worried about MLJH, who, okay, he's 10 seconds behind, but Contrast has got a lot of time penalties. He's really been struggling at this circuit to keep it within the white lines, and you know, sometimes it can just be a case of running a couple inches over, and you know, especially when you're pushing hard to battle with another driver at a track like this, it can be easy to just run a little bit over, as Infinite March has just popped into the pits and put on a new set of tires. I think that he'd been on those super softs for a little while. He's you know, that's really just a safety pit stop, I'd say, from Infinite March. No point of you know, potentially risking any kind of puncture. He's not really battling anybody else. He's just got to bring the car home. Same for Jordan in front of him, as I know those guys have just got to focus on making it to the end and picking up those points. That's what's important for them here today. So yeah, just a sort of safety pit stop there for Infinite March. And Contrast is just starting to lose ground to VTI on those newer tires, and yeah, he is pulling away from the Mercedes here. So it looks like at the moment we're sitting, give you a quick rundown, it's Maznat who's leading this race on those super soft tires. Those are getting very worn at this point, but you know, he will have been looking after those, especially after seeing VTI come into the pits. VTI is 10 seconds behind him. So this is looking like it's going to be Maznat's second win of the season. I don't think he has any time penalties, so there shouldn't be too many surprises there. Contrast, he's in third, just following off the back of VTI now, but Contrast has really been a revelation in the second half of this season. After the mid-season break, he you know, he's kind of there in sort of P4, 5, and 6 for the first few races, but you know, since we got to Malaysia, he's picked up a third, a first, and now he's looking like another podium. So Contrast putting on some strong showings here in the second half of this season. Then we go to P4, MLJH. Man, did he have a chance to win this race today? And I suppose somewhat threw it away in that S section. Easy to do, but you know, very frustrating for the Mercedes driver here. He could have been right up there battling with the likes of Maznat for this win, but wasn't to be so today. He's now got to focus on keeping it clean and trying to reel in a little bit of this gap to Contrast. We know Contrast's got a lot of penalties, so MLJH is not completely out of a chance of being on the podium yet. I think he needs to reel in a couple more seconds on Contrast, but yeah, he's not completely out of that. Then we hop down to Infinite March in 5th place, who's I believe a lap down on the leaders, and for him, he's just got to keep the car on the track, make it to the end of the race. And the same goes for Jordan in P6, the two Red Bull drivers. Having a bit of a tough time of it here today pace-wise, but they're going to pick up some great points for the team. I mean, yeah, they'll be picking up 18 points for Red Bull, so that's fantastic for them. It just shows that, you know, sometimes it's well, it's just crucial to make it to the end of the races. We have lost a couple drivers. Cremo retired, Dubsy retired, and also we lost Banana Josh in qualifying. So yeah, if you're interested in taking part in competing with the likes of Maznat for wins here in AOR, then make sure you head over to the forums and get yourself signed up, apexonlineracing.com, and you find all the information there in the F1 section of the forums. Yeah, come along, and there's still got a couple places left on this grid. We do have a few drivers away today, so things are normally a little bit more full than we have at the moment, but there are still some places remaining for drivers who want to take them and to get themselves involved in AOR before the end of the season. So we just got 3 races left after this one: Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi. But yeah, I mean, VTI, he is closing in slightly on Maznat, but it's not going to be close to enough. He's 9 seconds back, and Maznat has been he's done a very good job to keep things clean in this race. I don't think I've seen him get any kind of time penalty, and that's such a huge thing around a circuit like this, is just making sure that you keep it within the white lines and avoid getting those time penalties, because they can have a huge impact on your race finishing position. And you know, you might cost yourself a little bit of on-track time by perhaps not driving completely flat out and really pushing the absolute limits of the track. And you know, generally when drivers are pushing flat out like that, it's not as if they're intentionally running over white lines. But when you're pushing in a circuit like this, here in America, it's one of those circuits where the quickest line is often timed from white line to white line. If you look through that the penultimate corner there, and particularly through that S section, running from one white line to the other is really the fastest way around the circuit. And if you're really trying to push to that, it's quite easy to just go over the limits a little bit. But Maznat has been very sensible out there today. It's been a composed drive from him, and after BTI's second pit stop, I think VTI might be regretting that pit stop a little bit now. He was in with a chance of a win, but just wasn't able to make up the ground again on Maznat, and he's fallen quite a way back. Now, pretty much the only remaining battle on track will be between VTI, Contrast, and MLJH, and not necessarily on track, but in terms of what penalties these guys have, and how that's going to affect their finishing positions. We know these guys all have some level of penalties. MLJH, importantly, has just got himself within 9 seconds of Contrast, so if Contrast does have an extra 9 seconds of penalties compared to MLJH will pick up that position. If he can just maintain it within that 9-second range. It's very close at the moment. He's just bouncing around about a tenth underneath where he needs to be, but we will hop on board with Maznat as he's just really cruising to the finish line. You can see him just kind of short shifting a little bit there. He's taking this one very easy, doesn't want to make any sort of last lap error, coming down towards the final corner now, and it will be Maznat to pick up the win here in the USA. A little bit of weaving, he's happy with that one. Solid race from Maznat, very mature drive there. VTI, he comes home in second, but we see he's got some time penalties. Now Contrast, where is he going to finish in terms of in relation to VTI? He's 11 seconds off of VTI, and actually will MLGH be close enough to gain this position on Contrast? It's going to be very tight across the line. No, he had an extra 3 seconds of penalties, so MLGH not able to make it. I thought he might have had one less set of penalties than that, which would have made it very, very close indeed, but MLGH does come home to pick up P4. Infinite March with a very kind of quiet P5, but he'll be very happy with that. Now Jordan coming down to the final corner of the race, just taking that nice and easy, and he will cross the line for P6. Great result for Red Bull here today. I mean, the two guys there, they might have struggled a little bit in terms of pace compared to the top 4, but picking up 18 points to the team is nothing to nothing to be disappointed about there for the Red Bull drivers. As we're on the podium now, too, of someone asking, who do I think the driver of the day is? And yeah, I mean, we saw some good points on circuit, some great battling, in particular between VTI and Contrast. But I don't know. I think in terms of driver of the day, I'd probably lean for Maznat. Had a very solid race. Really led it from the outset. Got the lead off of Dubsy through that first corner, and was just just out there putting in the lap times, avoiding getting the penalties, and just putting in a very solid kind of calculated drive. You see there, he's not picked up any sort of penalties, lots of penalties elsewhere on the grid. So yeah, I think my pick would probably be Maznat. He is our race winner. Second place is VTI in the McLaren. Tried a two-stop, tried just something different when he wasn't able to get past Maznat. Didn't really work out for him, but he does maintain that second place. Contrast in third. He picks up his third podium of the season. MLJH in fourth. What could have been really for MLGH, that spin costing him such a huge amount of time. And then we had our two other finishers, Infinite March and Jordan, picking up solid points for themselves. And Red Bull, we lost a couple of drivers. That was Crema in the Toro Rosso, Dubsy in the Ferrari, and Banana Josh in the Williams as well. But yeah, that was a really great race for Maznat. Haul himself up a little bit in terms of the standings. VTI also closing in a big way onto Dubsy, because VTI, he's only going to be 16 points behind in terms of the championship now, with 3 races left. That's really all to play for. It's not a huge amount of points. And yeah, okay, so thank you to everybody for coming and joining us for this race here tonight. Fairly quite great. We saw some good battling there, some interesting tire strategies, and yeah, plenty of interest despite the numbers. So if you want to get involved in this league, please head over to apexonlineracing.com. You can go to the AOR F1 leagues, find the PS4 section, the subforum there, and then the Oceania section, and get yourself signed up. Give us a little bit of information about yourself, do a couple time trials and a speed test to, I believe it is Melbourne, and you can get yourself on this grid for the final couple races of the season. And a big advantage of that is it gets you further up the car placement for the next full season that we do, and obviously gets yourself some good racing as well. Now with in regards to what else is happening here on Apex Online Racing, we've had the Xbox race going on at the same time as this, but also we'll have the European Leagues tonight at 8 p.m. And I believe we have broadcasts for the top tiers of PC, Xbox, and PS4. Will all be going live, as well as broadcasts for PS4 F2 and PS4 F8, I think, as well. We may even have an F4 broadcast for PS4 too. So, yeah, us PS4 guys have been good on the broadcasting and commentary so far this season, getting very, very involved. But yeah, you can find that at 8 p.m. UK time. So that would be, geez, what would that be? I think that'd be about 9 in the morning or so in Australia, depending on which time zone that you're in. But yeah, 8 p.m. UK time that you can find those European races. Lots of good battles going on in those championships, in particular PC holding up like Satopa, Formula Danny, and Simp, very, very close in the championship there. In terms of PS4, we've also got a five-man battle for the championship in the top split, so make sure that you catch that this evening at 8 p.m. UK time. And I'd like to say thank you to everybody for taking part, and thank you to the drivers for the race today. It was an interesting one, and I hope to see you all soon.